Welcome to the Brickworks Podcast, an extension of the studio based here in Burnham-on-sea. Our aim for this podcast is to have a completely open forum for conversation. This could be about art, life, mental health, or even how the world is burning down around us right now. Whether you're listening to this whilst on a run or relaxing at home, we hope you enjoy our mild-mannered rambles. Thank you. How's it going, bro? Mate, we haven't been on a podcast together in ages.
I know, it's been a while, man. It's been a long time. But yeah, no, I'm good, man. I'm good. When was the last time we did this? It was
about this time last year.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Just after COVID started and stuff.
Yeah, I think it was like 2 weeks into the lockdown I started.
Yeah, that's so funny, man. Because like, I wasn't even really pushing music at all then.
No.
At all. Like I think I was writing and doing bits, but there was no music out, so it's nice to see you now when I've actually finally got into what I'm actually meant to be doing.
Well, I think everyone was sort of at a bit of a weird period back then, eh? I think we were all just sort of like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, whereas it feels a bit more stable now in some ways.
Yeah, I think we either used it, I was lucky, man. I think it could either have spiraled really bad, or it could have like used it for quite a constructive, progressive part of your life. I know a lot of people have just dived into like getting very, very drunk, and like I did as well, man. To be fair, I had my space in it, and it did play in my mind quite a lot, mental health wise. But you can either use it to do something positive or spiral into negativity, I guess. Which is hard to do. But.
Yeah, I think being sort of forced into a position where you're in with your own mind as well, like, it's quite a daunting prospect for a lot of people.
Yeah,
like,
man, it messed me up bad as well, to be fair. Like, I don't know, it's hard. Like, I think for me as well, because obviously I've been traveling. I was traveling for like 3 years prior to being here, and the travel life is so different to being in a small town and a community like this. Because I was trying to explain to other people as well, until you've been and done that, it's hard to explain it, because when you're on the road and traveling and constantly moving, your hardest decision is where you're going to go next. And then it's so different, like people's attitudes towards life, they're way much more towards just fun and partying and like having fun and where to go and explore. You don't even talk about, it's very interesting, man, like coming back, because like we'd never even talk about death or like there wouldn't be much suffering going on. There wouldn't be anything bad. Like there wouldn't be like breakups and suffering and things like this. It'd just be pure fun. And then which is a bit, maybe it could be seen as like a false part of life, but when you come back here, for me it was so hard to transition, because it was like realities of life, you know, people having kids, people like, you know, getting married and doing this stuff and jobs and 40 hours a week, and it's a shame. Like, it's hard for me now, because obviously having all this time to myself, I've realised like, oh wow, I took that for granted hard. Like that travel life, I was just like, oh yeah, it's fine, I can do it whenever. Yeah. But oh man, coming back into this life, way of life, which is nothing wrong with it at all, but I just got so used to
being in that sort of utopic state.
Mate, 100%, man. I can't believe how blessed and how privileged I was to be doing that now. Like I look back, I took it for granted so hard, man. But now 100% I have a newfound respect for that, and I'll never take that for granted again after this period.
Yeah, and I suppose like the idea of taking something for granted is quite an interesting concept, because like there's a lot of growth in that. Like you can look at that and go, oh, I took that for granted, so if I get the opportunity again, I'm going to make the most of it.
Definitely. And it's hard. I mean, as humans, I think we have to relearn the same lessons again and again. Yeah. Like I probably would get to a point where I'm traveling again, I'm taking things for granted, but it's just trying to constantly remind myself. Like, do you know when you're like sick or you're like really hungover, you're like, just get me through this. I do like a little internal monologue, a little pray of like, oh God, just get me through this, and like I'll never do that again. And it lasts about 3 weeks, and you're like super healthy, and then before you know it, you're having a cheeky rolling or like going for a bit. But
well, it's mad how quick we forget about things as well, isn't it? Like, you know, we can go through like some crazy stuff, and within, you know, a couple of months, it's like in the past. I know, man.
And like that's a problem for me as well. Like when I'm going through something bad, it's so bad. Like, and there is no light at the end of the tunnel. Like, and I'm super open about my mental health struggles that I've struggled with. But at the time, it's like all encompassing, the be all end all, and there is no way out. But like. It's so hard, because even though you've gone through stuff before and you're trying to use that past experience as like, oh no, you did that there, you did that. Yeah. At the time, it's just nothing. It's just whoosh,
I think you get caught up in the fog. Like the thing with the mental health, like certain, you know, parameters of mental health, because everyone deals with it differently, of course. But for me, speaking from a personal perspective, it's like this fog. It's like this mist that just like overwhelmed my mind. So like, you know, when you're in the fog, it's hard to see out of it. It's this all-encompassing moment that's going on, and that's like understanding that will clear. That's the big thing for me that I learned, you know, is that with time and growth and patience and all of these things, like fog clears.
This is the thing, man, as well. Like I talk about this, I'd happily talk about it on here as well, openly, because like the fog, it's the perfect way to describe it for me as well. Because when I was going, so towards the end of like last year, I was going through like very, very bad time, and like the fog in my mind was so dense and thick, and like whether it was due to loads of different things, due to feeling lack of identity. Like I was trying to push music, I hadn't really got into that again yet. Didn't really know what I was doing, a bunch of bad experiences, but man, like my fog was so bad, and like really, really bad. And like the thing is with me, I always had this, I think as a musician as well, there is like a level of ego involved, and like identity, and like, you know, I can sort this out myself, I can do this, I can do the work. You know, I'm quite into like spiritual growth and emotional growth and stability, and I thought I could do all those things, you know, and then I was like, oh, I don't need to get help for this, and I think this is where the stigma around mental health is, people thinking, I don't need anything to help me through this, I don't need to do this. And then it's only until like I was like, oh, okay, this is really bad now, like I need to actually sort this out, which was when I actually went to a doctor and like sought help for my mental like health issues. And with that as well, like I was always like, oh, I don't believe in like pharmaceutical help for all these things, but my fog couldn't clear. Like I knew the work that I needed to do.
Totally.
I knew what I needed to be done, but I could not make my mind stable enough to do that work because the fog was so dense. And it got to the point, I think I didn't sleep for like, it was about 4 nights of like awful, like maybe like probably like 1 hour in 4 nights. And I was honestly, man, like it got to a point where I remember I was outside in my garden just pacing, like smoking rollie after rollie, like so stressed, pacing up and down, because I just couldn't calm my mind. I couldn't do it. Like, and it's crazy to look back at that now. And it's like you say, when you look back on it, you're like, fuck, man, that was me. I was actually like that messed up psychologically in my mind. But anyway, I went to the doctors. Finally, I tried a few things before, like pharmaceutical wise. Like I tried fluoxetine and sertraline. None of them, they didn't really do the job for me. I probably should have tried something else sooner. But anyway, I took something called mirtazapine, which was like, man, like that night, because I said to him, I was like, I need something that's going to work like now. This is very bad. Like I'm at the end of my ability to cope with this. And he said, I'll just take this, you'll have a good sleep. And man, I remember taking this for the first time. It's like a 15 milligram lowest dose. And that night I was like, slept for like 13, 14 hours. And I woke up like, oh my God, this is amazing. So yeah, I took that for a fair few months, went up to 30 milligrams at one point because things still weren't that sorted out. But man, and at the end of it, like I've been off that now for about a month and a half, 2 months, probably 2 months now, and like quite easily came off of that. But that probably owe my life to that pharmaceutical intervention, because and like the stigma for me was always, the work is internal and spiritual, like I need to have like, I need to do this work myself, I need to do it myself. But people have like a psychological imbalance in their brain of like, say, serotonin release and adrenaline release into their body. You can't do that work. It was the most frustrating thing, man, like seeing what I needed to do
but couldn't actually
do it. It was there. It was I was like, I know what I need to do, but I just it's not working right now. I'm not well, like and then as soon as I took that, man, it was unreal. It calmed everything down. It allowed me to find space and peace to do the work that I needed to be done. And now I'm here. I can look back on that. I've come off of that safely and then in a good way, and now I'm fine.
And also, you probably found that like by the pharmaceutical. It's interesting you say that, because I was kind of antidepressants, all of those things. So have I been, man, 100%. And I think because I've always had bad experiences with it, with friends that have got sort of addicted to them long periods of time and stuff like that. So I'd always been against it. But it's interesting you bring that up, because recently I went to the doctor and I've been feeling like very anxious. I've had like a baseline level of anxiety. And the last like month and a half, that's just like peaked and stayed peaked. So I'm always in this fight or flight feeling where I'm like having to like
adrenaline and then and
constantly
just, extreme highs and low lows.
Totally.
I'm going to be amazing. I'm going to make this business into something so good.
And then 2 days later, I'm like, 2 days later, I'm like on the street, like shit. But totally. And so I was super against it as well. I was like, I don't want to take it. I'm going to sort myself out. I know what I need to do. I need to meditate, etc., etc. And then it was like, fuck, I just need something to take the edge off. Just something that will, over time, just calm everything down a little. So yeah, saw the doctor, really nice doctor. And he was like, okay, let's get you on some SSRIs. Let's get you calming down over a couple of weeks. Cool. And I feel way more chill now. Yeah. Like I feel like the anxiety's still there. Yeah. It's still like the baseline.
It's not a cure. It's not a one pill cure.
No.
What are you taking?
Sertraline,
yeah?
Yeah, sertraline. Thank you. Cool, I think it's the new version of like Z-Pak. Z-Paks were.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel good, man.
And I feel good. And the stigma around it, man. It's like, but if I had got that help, if I had actually been like, oh, do you know what, like it's fine, sooner, I would have been like, my life would have been so much more together way sooner than it took that time. Because I was just like, no, I can't take that. And it's because, I don't know, but it's so strange that we have this in society. Like if you're sick, if you have a sore throat or anything, whatever, you go to the doctor and they give you like an antibiotic for a blocked ear or ear infection. Yeah. When your brain's not very good, you don't go to the doctor. It's so strange, man. And as long as there's a time and a place for it, man, as long as you can have respect for what you're taking. Like I really respected mirtazapine. It wasn't like a joke. It was like, I'm taking this, it's helping me get better. This isn't a quick fix. It's like, this is a long allowing term. Me to do the growth. Like I'm not going to rely on this to make me who I am. No, I'm going to rely on this to give me space and time to do the work, which means I can come off this safely. I think that's when it becomes a problem if you're going to be on that for a very long period of time. If you're going to start becoming reliant upon something to be who you are, then obviously there's a problem there. And it's as we were talking about earlier, man. Like it's like the coping mechanisms allowing you to do things like. I've drank a lot in my life. Like I go through stages of bendering and like smoking and exercising loads, like all these extremes. And I don't know, now I'm at a point where I'm not really drinking hardly at all. I have the odd rollie, not really at all. I exercise a bit and it's all just plateaued now. Like I'm trying to get out of this yo-yo of like all or nothing mentality.
Peaks and troughs sort of thing.
I used to like smash music for a couple of weeks and then done with it, and now I'm like pushing that on a daily basis. Like as soon as you can like bring these highs down into the middle line and balance your life out a little bit more, I think you're going to start living quite nicely.
Find like a nice like balanced sort of way of going about life. I think that's the thing, isn't it? In some ways we're all looking for like a nice life balance, like work-life balance, like the classic thing, but it's really tricky when you're freelance or doing your own thing, like to find work-life balance, because you can go from, because it's all on you. Like I had this conversation with somebody last night. It's like they asked me like, why do I work so much? And I was like, because it's all on me. Like all of the responsibility of the Brickworks, my career, all of those things is on my shoulders. And if I don't put the work in, it's going to fail. So it's really easy to get sort of obsessed with it.
And in your spare time you could be sat at home like having dinner and your laptop's open, you're like, well, I'll quickly just do this.
I need to send this email. 100%. But then you peak and trough. So there's moments where I'm like, I can't be I don't want to fucking do this now. You know what I mean? And that's unhealthy. And I think it's really important to recognize all of this sort of stuff. You know what I mean? And
keeping your life in boxes as well. So I try and do as much as possible. So you say 9 boxes, you got like relationships, friendships, work, fun, pleasure, socializing, exercise, all these things. And like as soon as one box gets too big, the other boxes shrink. Like so you're not really putting enough time into that. Keeping them all in like squares is like a good analogy to sort of
that's a cool way of thinking about it, actually. I've never thought of it from that perspective, like having the boxes all at similar sizes, so they all balance together.
Big, there's only a finite amount of space and time, isn't there? So like, as soon as that's true. Another thing I found, man, recently, which you can probably relate to, is like when I thought I was putting in effort into my music, because like my music's gone like very well, and it's going very well now. I'm finally at a point where it's like very self-sufficient and people are listening more and like all of this. But like when I look back, what I thought was me really trying hard and pushing was nothing. Like I think you can trick yourself into thinking you're on the grind. I'm on the grind, man. It's like, man, there's a whole other level of grind. Like when you're up till like 1 a.m, like finding email addresses, networking, marketing, doing all these things. That's when you're on the grind. Not 100%. Not like a couple of hours here and there. Like I'm grinding. I'm doing a few posts. It's like, nah, you have to be putting your time in. Like,
it's literally 24/7. Yeah. Like, and that's the thing is, I think like going back to like the idea of like it's all on you. It's like, if you want it, you have to put it in. You know what I mean?
That's so true. And like, it's such a cliche. And like, I was such a hater. Like, I'd be like, oh man, look at these losers. Like, do you know what? I'll tell you a story as well. Like, I'm in this group chat on Instagram with a bunch of musicians now, and a guy, Nico, he runs an indie music blog. And so he gathered us all together. And when I first got into this blog, we were talking about ideas and how we're pushing our music forward and stuff. And there's some quite successful musicians on there. And a couple of them were like, oh, you know, I spend at least like this many hours a week researching on YouTube around like marketing and all this stuff. And then when I first said that in my head, I was like, fuck that, like I'm not doing that. Like if it's good enough, it'll do it itself. Like I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But then recently I've been into it, man. Like my head is in books and on YouTube, like researching ways to do this. And as soon as I've started actually accepting that graft and grind, real grind, like things have started to snowball and to go. Like I think way more effort than you think. Like
totally,
stuff, you know
I totally agree. And I think the other thing is focus as well. Like actually focusing in the right areas. Like because it's so easy, as you were saying, to be like, oh, I'm grinding, but you're only doing like 2-3 hours of real focused work, and then the rest of it you're sort of maybe flicking through Instagram or whatever.
On a tiny bit, or you'll be looking after like the 1% when you should be like working on like the 50%.
Totally.
Investing your time into like, I don't know, with music maybe it's like, oh, that tiny note on that song is like
a little bit out.
Or spending 4 hours on it, which I do as well, man. But like when you could be using those 4 hours to be like, right, let's work out a marketing campaign for the next release or whatever. So structuring your time and putting it in the right places is...
It sounds like you've had quite like a shift in the last sort of year, because the last time we sat down, obviously music wasn't sort of necessarily priority.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you've been through like quite this crazy shift in the last year.
Yeah, definitely. I owe a lot to finding White Noise Studios with my friend Mark Whitehouse and Richard Stockley. They really took me on in terms of an artist that can work there. They hooked me up as like a sort of sponsorship in terms of recording, and Richard's a great producer and stuff. But we finally got to work, man, in the studio, really putting in countless hours, like grafting music and crafting it again into a way like I want to produce like this art that I'm creating, and learning about marketing and things like this, pushing it off. So like we're approaching like 4,000 monthly listeners on Spotify now,
which is awesome.
It's so cool, man.
It's
like,
so sick.
It's like 87 different countries now, I think. Like
That's
people are listening
crazy.
in like Kazakhstan and like Georgia and places like this. It's crazy, man. But yeah, it's I think, and that was mainly just like, okay, like I keep talking about doing music, I'm busking and doing gigs here and there, but like I'm not embodying this idea of being a professional musician, trying to push my career forward. And as soon as I've taken that on and like, no, this is what I want to do now, this is what I want to be. I'm 26, like I'm only gonna get like the finite amount of time really to be pushing it as hard as I am is shrinking. It's like, okay, I'm either gonna do this now or not, like, or I'm gonna just bum around and do it. And I was like, nah, I want to give it a proper go.
It's amazing what commitment can do. Like when you make a commitment to something, whether it's a career goal or, it's amazing what it changes in the mind, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
100%.
Like making that, for me, like I made a commitment like 2 years ago that it's like, I'm going to be a professional artist.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm now a full-time artist.
Yeah.
And ever since that, I haven't looked back. And I'm just on that sort of like focus. And it's crazy because like once you find the thing you want to commit to, it changes your perspective on like you, like personally, but also the people around you and the world. It's so interesting.
And this is the thing as well, like with my mental health, I think when it was starting to spiral towards the second half of last year, obviously it's probably a lot to do with alcohol as well, but in terms of like my lack of identity, like I didn't have anything, man. I didn't have anything I really give a shit about. It was always it was always travel, and it's constantly every day the next place. Oh, where am I going to go next? Like I was in Australia, New Zealand, or up east, like everywhere, like Asia. And it's like, where am I going to go next? Where are we going to go, guys? Let's go for a beer or whatever. And then we had that time just to sit there and be like, I ain't no going anywhere in a moment. Like, and it was like, oh man, like I need to find something to channel all this like creativity and like stimulus, because obviously when you're traveling it's so much like eye stimulus, like it's just like, oh, look at that. It's like your senses are like overwhelmed. In Asia there's like horns and markets and like, you know, money transfer. It's just so much going on, you're overwhelmed. And like I was working at a very high capacity for a long time, like my brain and like stimulus and stuff, and then I was obviously forced to root in Burnham for a long time. There wasn't really anything going on. I was like, oh, I've got all this stuff, no wonder it's going to end up making my mental health bad or like not feel very good, because it's like there's no outlet, there's nothing. And then as soon as you can find that creative, I needed to put it into somewhere. So not to go full circle, not Sorry.
Yeah. My neighbour upstairs, bless her.
Bless her, she loves it. And we're talking about like what that does for you when you find your drive. Yeah. So like finding that, it was like okay, wow.
Yeah. And it's incredible that it like, for me, it changed just like my perspective on the world, like what my time, that I valued my time towards like certain aspects of my life, if that makes sense. Like you were saying about like the box visualization, which is really interesting because like I feel like I've thought in similar manners, but not necessarily the boxes as such. Like the idea of allocation of my time. It's like, okay, I need to sleep this much. I need to like, you know what I mean? And by doing that, it kind of just completely opened my mind up to like different perspectives to chase and like different ways to work.
Your time is valuable, man, as well. People really underestimate, like, it's the only thing, man. Like money, it's great. It can help you do the things you want to do, but your time is like, it's so cliche. All these cliches are becoming so much more true in my life. I'm like, I used to be like, oh, that's so cringe. But like all the, like time is like so valuable, man. It's the only thing you have, like
100%.
And I used to just put so much time, and man, I still do it now. Like part of like my mental health or recovery into like trying to be like mentally stable is like, mate, I used to like ruminate on like things that happened or bad stuff or like stuff that has nothing to do with me or like out of my control. Constant cycle all day of like, oh, like that. Fucking bad, like oh god, like let's people, like this is all this happening, like constantly, and like investing all my time in just the shit, like and it wasn't serving anyone, wasn't serving me, wasn't serving the people, like stuff that has happened and been and gone, like, and I struggle with that still. It's part of being like, I'm quite a reflective person, especially through writing. A lot of my writing is based upon experience and like reflecting upon stuff. So, but you can reflect to the point where you're like, you're missing your life, man. Like, you can. And another thing is like all these principles of like, sorry, man, you go first.
No, I was just going to sort of go off of your point there, because it's so easy to just get stuck on negativity. Like when you're in a sort of a weird headspace, whether it's, you know, like a negative headspace or just in a place of unknown, it's so easy to get caught on all of the negative bullshit, man. Like it's just so easy because you can grasp it. It's when you're in a negative space, negativity's easy to grasp, you know? And
the thing is with that, man, like, I don't know what you're like, but like, for me, I'm still working on it now. It almost becomes like a bit like your identity when you're in that headspace. Like, and man, I was almost, it's like probably like a bit of like a sadistic part of who I don't know, but like I was almost like thriving on like negative stuff, like anger and like fuck this, and like I don't know, I was almost like, I'm not liking it, but like it was just like easy. It's just so much easier to be like, this is bullshit, like I hate this, as opposed to being like, oh, okay, like what can I do to make the most of this? Like, how can I try and thrive in this environment, even if it's not your thing? But it's so easy just to be like, fuck this, like
100%, because it becomes your identity. Like there's the whole sort of, you know, the cliche of the sad artist, you know. And
man. Oh god.
100%. And I had quite an interesting conversation a while ago with a friend, and the cliche is true when you think about it, because as artists, whether you're a musician, visual artist, whatever it is, to be an artist, you have to be fairly in touch with your emotions, fairly in touch with how your mind works to create in any capacity, really, unless you're doing it as a hobby. That's a different ball game. But if it's your career, you have to be in touch with those emotions. So by being in touch with them through your artwork, you're naturally going to understand sadness. So sadness is one of the key components of the human mind and how the body operates. So the idea of being the sad artist is because we actually are in touch with our emotions.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
But and it like, I know, I totally understand. And like, it depends on like, the thing is like so much art is created through suffering, isn't it? Like whether it's songs, art, especially painted art, like you know, loads of artists seem to suffer with mental health issues. Like, but yeah, it's hard, isn't it? It is hard, and like for me, it's like trying to leave that at the door, like the whole, because I can look at like a lot of my stuff's like relatively like low key. I'm writing a bit more positive stuff now, but a lot of my like creations and musically is relatively sad maybe, but I don't know. It's hard to not to embody that and just to be like, okay, like I'm writing some expression here. This is not who I am. This is just a part of my life. Like
100%. And I think the thing with it is when you understand it, like I spend a lot of time on self-reflection and self-understanding. So like I want to know what's going on in my head. I can't necessarily control it, but I want to know what's going on. But I've kind of lucky enough, I've worked hard to get to the stage now where I can use it. So if I want to use like my loneliness that I feel through imagery, I can sort of bring it back up to make an image. It's really interesting. Like I don't know if you find that with your music, that because obviously you write quite sort of, stories from your own lives in some ways. Do you find that you pull up emotions to put in the songs?
Yeah, I have a very my memory and my ability to recount events and stuff is so vivid. Like I can literally, I could think now about that moment there, and I can be there, really, very strongly. I can see that in my mind, and that's obviously a bit of a problem if you're thinking about negative stuff, because it brings it all to there. An issue for me though as well is that it's hard for me to learn from stuff a lot of the time. I kind of make the same mistakes quite a lot. I think it's because I have this positive reflection all the time. I'm like, oh, that was good, I was happy there. At the time I was probably really fucking not good, but I still look back on it and I'm like, I don't know, I just sort of dreamscape that whole idea of that really bad time. But I'm like, oh no, that was good there, that was good, but it wasn't.
No,
but I just have this positive reflection, which I don't know, allows me to look back on things that probably weren't very good for me, but I just did them anyway.
Well, I think the human mind has has an ability that the past, nostalgia.
Yeah, that's it.
We see the past as a positive, in a nostalgic perspective. So, for example, the way that yourself probably looks at traveling.
Yeah.
There was probably moments whilst you were traveling that were what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
But then your memory is so nostalgic towards it that you don't necessarily think of those. That you immediately think of the happy moments and all those sort of things. You weren't necessarily thinking of the deep background stuff, and I think we're all
true,
like
man,
that.
100%, and that's an issue because you have to have a balance. I mean, I do it with relationships and things as well.
Totally.
I look back at previous relationships and I'm like, oh, that was really good, we loved each other, but it was realistically that
it was toxic,
it was fucking
as fuck.
shit. I don't know, it's hard, isn't it? But I don't know, man, it's difficult. I have this a lot, internal monologue of all those things, but it's just trying to work out. Growth is a very interesting one, man. You kind of think that growth's a whole linear idea, but it's definitely not. No. There is a lot of regression that comes out of coming upwards as well.
100%. I think you kind of have to have those regressions, so you have to have those moments where
you fall back into old habits or whatever.
Totally, because they keep you in check in a way. They remind you oh no, I'm better than this, or I can grow past this. You know what I mean? Rather than if you were on that constant linear path, there would be nothing checking you.
Yeah.
So you'd be wait, where am I? I'm just going up and up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a good quote that I read the other day as well is where attention goes, energy flows.
Yeah.
So it's whatever you're giving attention to, whether it's anything, where you can focus so much on what's going on in the world right now, and your energy is flowing into that, and you can try and put a blockade up of being no, I'm going to do it in a positive way or whatever. For me, it's very hard. Some people can do it, and there's some people that can do it very well, but for me, I just if I get into that stuff now, it will not be a very good. It won't be a good end game for me, which in turn will mean that my output towards other things creatively, whether it's music, whether it's having time for people busking, or whatever, will be a lot lower, because my energy will be going into something that's not filling me in a very nice way, man. And I see this now, the less I focus on negative issues, and obviously I'm in a very privileged position where I don't have to do that. I understand a lot of people do have to do that, and they have to focus on things, and that's that's unfortunate, and they have all my love and all my care and compassion, but for me, I'm obviously in a position where I don't have to do that, and I see it, man. Even when I'm busking now, there's a point when I was not feeling very good mentally, where I'd busk and people would, I talk to people all day, half of it's talking, but when people would used to come up and speak to me, I wouldn't have a lot of time for it, man. I'd be let me talking to me, and I would wouldn't even be listening to what they were saying. I'd just be thinking about saying, and just constant, yeah, and that's savage, really. And I look back on that, and now because my attention is to more beautiful things, I can actually have a conversation with being engaged and be oh cool, and actually be into their life a little bit, and share that time with them, because I'm not having a backlog of oh fuck.
I totally agree. Well, it's the whole sort of stigma around being in your own head, isn't it? When you're in a sad place mentally, it's so easy to be in your own head and not see what's going on around you and actually taking it in. So I think when it comes to human interaction and you're in that headspace, it's
so hard, mate. Absolutely. And this is the thing as well, and it's very hard to explain this, but I've had it's hard to explain to my family and people and friends and everything. I don't know what you're like, man, but for me, when I'm in a bad state, mentally, or when I was going through that stuff, there is nothing that anyone could have said, mate. Nothing. Nothing.
Nothing fixes it.
Because especially if you know as well, I knew the truth and I knew what I needed to do and all these things. There was nothing anyone could say, man. It's so hard. This is why mental health is so complex and difficult, man. Like, it got to the point, and I have no issue talking about it, and like, it got to the point for me where it's like, if I was gonna like kill myself, like I was going to, like there was nothing, mate, anyone could say that there wasn't anything. Like, and I understand, like it's difficult for me, like externally I'm in a very privileged position. I've had a very good life and things like this, but it doesn't mean fucking nothing, man. Like, I was trying to, when I was going through that, I was trying to look at like, oh man, like I've done good things, I've had a good life, but nothing, man. Nothing, no conversation. The only person that can pull you out of that place is yourself. Like, it really is, man. Obviously, luckily I had help from doctors and things, but there is nothing, man. There is nothing that can pull you out. Nothing anyone can say. Like, people would say like, pop a good ear candy for me, and I'd be like, oh, it all sounds really nice, but it doesn't fucking work. Like,
it just doesn't register. Like, it goes in, fucking fires around for a minute, and then fires back out.
Yeah, and that's why it's so hard for people working, or if they've got a family member with mental health issues or anything. It must be so hard. Like, and like, thank God, like, I'm blessed I've gone through things like this and come out so I can help people now. When people are going through that, like, the best thing I think you can do is just sit and just be with them and just be like, man, I understand it's shit. Like, not think positive, man, or there's toxic positivity, man, which I've learned is, oh, you gotta be positive, man, like, oh, I think positive, like, the world's not such a bad place, all that stuff, man. So, look, a lot of the time when I was going through shit, I just needed someone just to be like, mate, your life's pretty fucked up at the moment, eh? Like, that's some mad stuff, like, but let's just sit here and sit with it. Like, I don't know, you can be toxically positive, and it's like, it's not good for people that are suffering, because
I think it changes, like, when you have somebody who's overly positive and it's like, oh yeah, the world's great, and you're not in that headspace to be able to compute that.
You get angry at them as well. Like, I resented it. I was like, you fucker.
Just
like,
shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Oh, is it all good, is it? But no, you do. You get like, it's not. But I do believe, I'm a big believer as well, that you're the average of the people you surround yourself with. Like,
totally agree, man.
You know, like, if you surround yourself with like people with lower level of consciousness, or people that have a different ethical or moral baseline to you, you're going to slip into those those habits that aren't serving you. Whereas like, for me now, I have a very small group of like people that I'm really, really close with. Majority of these people are like overseas still, which is obviously really sad and unfortunate. But and those people are like strong people, like they're like beautiful inside and out, like they're lovely, and that's like, I massively pride myself around surrounding myself with good people, because I think it definitely reflects into your own life. Yeah,
I honestly, I totally agree with you. I think the people that we put ourselves with or surround ourselves with inspire us on a daily basis, you know, and I think it's integral to speak to people that not only inspire you, but sort of give you a reason to keep pushing forward in whatever way you're working, you know. I think the idea of having a small circle, like, I don't know if you would agree, but for me personally, I have no interest in knowing a lot of people, being friends with 50 people or whatever.
I think it would depend. Like, if they were all like really, like really on
if
that
they
level,
were all Elon Musks or something, then
great. But it's about depth, isn't it? Like, depth and consciousness seem to be quite a thinly dispersed level of human being right now. So it's like, that's the truth. And like, so you have to find people that are going to be bringing you up, not trying to pull you down into different habits. Level,
so you got a new song coming out soon, don't you? I read somewhere. Wild Love.
Wild Love's coming out next Friday. Yeah, I'm stoked, man. Like, it's nice to get something new out.
Hell yeah.
Because it's been, I mean, early December was the EP, and that was great. But through every track we're recording, we're learning a lot more about how to produce, how to mix, what suits vocals and instruments and stuff. So even after Wild Love, there's more tracks that are coming that are even better. Like, so I think everything you do, you improve upon, don't you?
So where did the inspiration for like the name Wild Love? Because obviously you got it tattooed on your hands as well, which is sick.
The song's beautiful, man. It's like originally there was a song by James Bay called Wild Love, which is like a beautiful, beautiful song. I think that might have been in my head a little bit. The tattoos were hilarious, man. I went to my friend Ben in Bristol, and he's done a bunch of random stuff on my leg, and I was there like, do you want to just tie my hands, man? And he was like, oh, what do you want to get? And I was like, oh, I don't know, like maybe like Wild and Free or something like that, like something just cliche. And I was like, oh man, and he's like, I don't know how I feel about that, man. And I was like, oh yeah, Free probably looks a bit shit, like the double E. I was like, oh, maybe not. I was like, oh, what about Wild Love? And he's like, are you sure, man? You just want your hands done? And I was like, oh yeah, let's do it. But anyway, I did that, and then I don't know, I wanted to write a song that encompassed something that I had on my body, because I've got like a pine tree, I've got like loads of stuff to do with my songs sort of scattered around, and I just love that. I love the idea of creating wild love, whether it's relationship wise, and like there's a lyric in there, wild love under empty skies, that's just like throws me back to days in Dartmoor, and just pure freedom, man. Like this is what I'm searching for. It's just pure, like connected to nature, the universe, like everything, and just going fucking wild, man. And I've done that, man. I've lived that part of my life for loads of periods of time, and it's just the most blissful, beautiful thing ever. Like, and it's so good, man. And the thing is as well, like I like that song is like, it's a bit melancholic, it's a little bit like sadder in some parts, but like towards the end it like brings itself up, and it's, I don't know, I'm really excited to share it with the world. We've got a lot of people backing it as well, which is nice.
That's so awesome, man.
Network,
that's so sick.
Few blogs and stuff, which is gonna be cool.
Well, I think the great thing as well is like seeing, like when you go on like your Spotify, for example, and seeing like your growth, like how your music has sort of changed, and the lyrical content and all of those things. It's like, I love seeing growth in people, you know what I mean?
Same,
like
man,
seeing people develop their creative outlets, and it's so awesome to see. Like,
oh yeah, man. No, I am stoked. I'm really happy with it. I think it's important as well, though, just whilst obviously it's unreal, and I'm like so super frothed, I'm like, oh my god, like this is like, I mean, I had a goal at the start of the year to get like 1,000 monthly listeners by December, and I was like, oh man, imagine how good that's gonna feel. And now I'm on like nearly 4,000 with a single coming out, which is way more than I could ever have imagined. But like, I do think as well, at the same time, the idea of something is always better than the actuality of it.
Totally.
Like, man, I used to look at that, man. I used to look at 1,000 and say now I'm on 4 and be like, oh my god, like if I get to 1,000 people listening every month, I'm gonna be so happy inside. Like that's amazing. And then like you get to like now I'm like 4, and I'm like, that was cool, wasn't it? Like, and it's not having respect for it. I respect it, and I'm like, oh, that was this is very good. This is a very positive growth, but it ain't gonna change your life. Like, ain't gonna make in here or in here feel any different. Like,
I totally agree, man. And I think that's the thing, is like having goals is important, of course. Like we all need goals, but the thing with it is our goals change the further we progress, you know. So like when you're at like 2, 3, 4 monthly listeners, 1,000, as you were saying, seems like, fuck, that's crazy. I can't wait to be there. And then when you get there, you're like, oh cool, what's the next one? You know what I mean? Like it changes. And
it's hard, man, but like I think any external goal or pleasure, like if there's an empty space in your heart, or if you're not well in your mind, like no level of gratification external is going to solve that.
100%.
Nothing, man. And like as much as you want it to, as much as you think it is, I'll be happy then. There's lots of things you can do, man. Like for me, environment's a big one. Like I know like I'm going to be back in like Australia very soon, whenever I can be, and I do think that's going to do a lot for my growth. But I'm not placing everything on it. I'm not saying I'll be happy when I live there. I just know that's a big facilitating factor for my level of peace and contentment inside, is being in a place where I know I want to be. Like,
totally.
But all these things are all just tiny little aspects which resolves to happiness, you know. Like I am happier now because my music is becoming a bit more successful. That's obviously a big contributing factor to my happiness, but it's nowhere near as big as I thought it was going to be. Like I thought I was going to be like, wow, my life's amazing now, but like you still have to deal with day-to-day shit, like relationship problems or mental health stuff. Like there's no cure, there's no fix for everything.
No, honestly,
constant work, like constant
100%, man. And the thing with it is like, those are always going to be a part of life in every capacity. It's like the day-to-day bullshit is always going to be there, and it's like understanding how to mitigate that as best as possible to allow yourself to like be creative and create the music you want to make, and or whatever it is. Like that's so important, because nothing takes it away. Like,
definitely,
it's always there.
Yeah, it's just having it in the back of your mind all the time. Like this isn't going to make me happy. This is going to be a contributing factor to my growth and success, and like my ability to create positive change, or whatever you want to look at it. It's not going to be a fix to anything. Like the work has to continue, whether you're probably rich and famous or whether you're poor, or
I would argue the work is even more when you're rich and famous, to stay at that level.
Yeah.
But last time we spoke, there was loads of festivals that you were going to do.
Yeah.
They all got completely cancelled.
Yeah, I had like it was like 50 odd gigs. A bunch of festivals gone. And that was heavy to take, but cause that was going to be the big push, but I'm glad it happened in a way, because now I've got the EP and I've got my music's, I'm going to be using that as a catapult to go into these festivals now. There's a few more happening. So you've got like Watch It Festival, Godney Gathering, Lake Fest. There's another one in Herefordshire, I think, but I forgot what that's called. So there's a few more going on. Whether they're going to happen or not remains to be seen. But
I was going to say, are you sort of getting booked for shows and stuff already?
Yeah, they're in. Like, they're locked in. I've been speaking to the festivals. They said you're still in. I'm like, yeah. So they're all planning to go ahead. Few gigs and stuff like this as well. Quite a few pubs and stuff, but I don't know. We'll see, won't we? Like, I'm not getting my hopes up with it, because we'll see what happens with the state of the world.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, it feels like we're almost there. Like, we're almost another 6 months, and we might be in a place where it's like
a few times though, Jake.
That is so true.
It has, but I really hope so, man. Like, I hope so for so many different reasons and a lot of different people. In what content that's going to be when we actually come out, as they say, I don't know, but hopefully it's a way that makes everybody.
The thing that I noticed with yourself, man, is like you transitioned to doing like live streams and stuff like that quite quickly, like at the beginning of all of the pandemic and stuff, because obviously no gigging really. What was that like, going to, because obviously you've done busking, you've done gigs and stuff like that in the past.
Weird, man, weird. I've never really been much of a talk. Like, when I busk, I don't really do any spiel. Like, I don't say, "Hi, this next song's this." Like, even when I gig, I'm not very good at like on stage presence talking, unless it's a really quiet audience and they want to know like intricacies and the delicacies of like delicate parts of my songs. If they want to know that. But live streaming is weird, man. It's like you have no one to clap at the end. You're having a conversation with yourself. It's hard to speak like that. But I'm kind of getting a bit more confident in. I think when you're a bit more grounded now, like at the start, then like I had a lot more of like, I wasn't really sure of my views, and I was just all over the place really. I think this, I think that, maybe, or I'm not sure. And now I'm very like, I kind of know who I am now, and I kind of know what I believe in, and I know I kind of know what I think is right and what's wrong, which has helped heaps with my ability to communicate musically, professionally, romantically, from a friendship perspective. Like, I don't know, my level of communication has probably improved a lot in my opinion, due to being more grounded and understanding myself.
I think like that's so true, because I think if we're a bit confused about ourselves, we can't really show ourselves.
100%.
It becomes this really weird grey area that you're just playing a character if you don't really know yourself, And
I do, man. I think we all do. Like there's a lot of instances, like at the studio, I'm like careless, don't give a shit, Taylor. Like, let's have fun and banter. Like with Rich and Mark, people like this. Like, it depends where you are. And here I'm with you, I can talk like my truth and like, this is what I believe in, this is who I am. With some friendships I can do that as well, but with some friendships I'm just silly, let's get drunk and party. Like, there is characters that I'll play, but it's about meeting the needs of your environment. I think like, what are the demands here? What we talking about? What level are we on? Like, are we on like, let's have fun and get pissed, or are we on like, let's talk about some great spiritual concepts and like progress our level of consciousness?
Totally.
So what do you want to do? But like, it's hard, isn't it? Like, but it's good to, once you can learn those things. It's like we were talking earlier about not putting energy. It's not worth it. Like, for me, like things I believe in deeply, like ethical issues or moral issues, I'm not going to have that conversation with somebody who ain't going to be on that level, or ain't going to want to talk about that, or they ain't gonna want to change anything or grow. Like, I'll talk about anything with anyone, because I'm quite open to changing my opinion on things. But for many years I was like in relationships, especially, man, like I was like in emotional relationships with people that weren't gonna like get anything. Like, for like, I was trying to explain stuff, and it's just like, I think, what am I doing? It's like banging your head against the wall. Like, and that's fine, man. Like, there's nothing wrong with like. And I used to think that was wrong. I used to be like, oh, fucking hell, man. Like, that's so bad, like I couldn't live my life like that. But like, nothing, like, ignorance is bliss, man. It is. Like, not getting involved
God, it is so bliss.
Yeah, not getting involved in political issues and like not understanding the repercussions of your actions is unreal. Like, because as soon as you open your mind to that, every little thing you do, you're like, oh fucking hell, I'm a bad person. Like, I'm horrible. Like, because everything you do has got an impact. But you got to accept
I totally agree, man. I was saying this actually to a friend last night. I was like, once you open that door, once you open that door to a deeper way of thinking, that door's never fucking shut.
I know,
like
man.
you're in there now, bro. Like,
oh man, it's so true. Once that door's open, you ain't closing it. But me and my brother always say like, I'd rather have the what is it? I'd rather have like the beautiful moments of consciousness than the ignorance of unconsciousness. Like there is great. There's like a level. So like the bliss you're gonna feel from being unconscious is probably around like here, and you're not gonna feel much. Your spectrum is probably gonna be like this big. Like you're gonna be like, oh, it's all right. Times are good. Times aren't that bad ever. But then like when you open the door, like, you can have like. Like this is unreal, but you can also have, oh fuck, that's bad. I'd rather have this big spectrum than like a
little tiny.
spectrum.
Yeah, 100%. Because there's so much like room for growth in that, like mental growth.
Definitely.
Like having that door open. I was thinking this the other day. It's like there's only, apart from like your heart, there's only one other thing that you cannot live without, and it's your brain.
Yeah.
Like if you lose your brain, you literally stop. Like
you're gone.
You're gone.
Yeah.
Like. So it makes this thing the most fucking important part of us as people, you know, as a human race. And it's like...
And there's a part, I think, as well, like, without getting too, like, deep into it, but, like, even beyond your heart and your brain, you know, there's that knowing, that truth, that consciousness, that, like, which you can feel up here, you can feel there, but there's... For me, I can feel there's something beyond that anyway, like an understanding of, like, connection and truth and something that brings us together, whether you call that... You can call it the soul, you can call it like consciousness or depth or truth or anything. Like definitely, I think it's hard, man, as well, because I go through points as well of like, oh, this is all just fucking pointless. Because my understanding of like, I think my understanding of like why we're here and like my human experience is like, I'm quite with that now, and like, you know, I won't go too deep into it, but I'm quite solidified in my ideas, and it does make this experience feel a bit more pointless now, like in terms of, and that's where my motivation drops sometimes. But then like I love it when I get into the good side of it, where it's just like, oh, if you feel like you understand it, if you think it's pointless or you understand it in a different way now, all there's left to do is just to have fun and just create beautiful moments as often as possible, and like live freely and like have a beautiful life. Like
I totally agree, man.
You can spend your whole life trying to figure something out, man. You're never going to figure it out. Like there's no point. Like, and I spent years, man, like suffering because of just like, oh, but like wonder why like this concept of like spiritual growth or like this religious view here, like it's all like all these little intricacies of life, and it's just like, oh, it's taken away from the whole experience of like, I'm here, I'm a human being for a reason. If I was meant to be like a spiritual being or something like that, I would be that. I'm going to be that in the after, when this body decomposes and dies anyway. There's no point spending my life trying to think what that thing is. It's going to happen anyway. Like, so what's the point? Like, I can be this, embody this flesh person now, and like, and just walk around and have a really nice life and have like things that are going to like see stimulus that's going to make my brain receptors like dopamine and serotonin go up, and like have like a really nice life. Like, I'm going to spend it like being like, oh, I wonder what this is, and like
that's really interesting.
And stuff. Like, and I theorized for so long, man. Like, you know, every time I go to the pub and get pissed, I'd be like, let's talk deep stuff. It's like, fuck that, man. Every time I'm gonna have a few beers now, I'm gonna just enjoy it, man, and just be with friends and just be like, hey, we're having a really nice time, aren't we? Let's not talk about this heavy shit anymore.
That's really interesting. So for yourself, you've peaked at this point where it was almost too much, and now you're simplifying your thought process in a way.
Man, I think the biggest lesson in spirituality in the end is letting it all go. Like the heart, and it's like you take the bits that you need from it. Like, I've learned about compassion, empathy, kindness, truth, oneness, consciousness, growth, emotional, mental health issues, spiritually. All of these ideas I've learned from them, and then like it's about, and then all the other bullshit with it, just letting it all go, man, and just embodying. I didn't do it very easily, man. Like a lot of my days, I'm probably a bit fucked off. Like, to be honest with you, and like I really am. Like, you know, and there's times where I really want to just go off the rails again and like smoke and drink myself silly. But the ideas are there, they're there. But I'm only 26, and like I'm not going to be putting too much pressure on myself to embody it all the time. But
and they're not going to be fully formed yet.
No, like, exactly, man. But I know what there is now, and like, like you said, it's just reductive. Like, just taking it all back now and being like, cool, I understand all that. I'm not serving anyone, like theoretizing about everything, like, this idea, it's nothing. Like, I just want to be here now and just have fun and enjoy my life.
Do you think you saw a transition in the music you were making around that time, like where you went from this real deep, potentially overthinking, stop me if I'm wrong, to now being a bit more in a understanding that but simplifying your life? Has the way that your process of creating changed?
Yeah, definitely. It just flows more, man. I think you're right. I think simplifying and understanding my life has been fundamental thing for where my growth is now, because I it's not complex anymore. Like it's complex. I'm just sort of going with it. Like, oh, cool, I'll go there today. I'm gonna go there and do this, and I'm gonna busk there and see what happens. Instead of like, oh, I should be doing this. Oh, I want to go here. It's just not. I don't really have that thought process anymore. And to be honest with you, the songs I'm creating now in the studio and at home, like, are way more lyrically intricate and like just way more, have a lot more beauty to them. Probably because my mind isn't like it was. Like, I'm just flowing with stuff. Like,
you're not necessarily overthinking each lyric. You know, you're, by the sounds of things, sort of enjoying the flow and the process more in a way.
I just want to have fun, man. Like, Jake, honestly, like, I really do. Like, and it's like, it's always been like this. Like, when I was traveling, it was like every day people were like frothing for life. There's like, everyone works part time or whatever. We're just going down the beach, having beers, having fun, like talking 100%. Fun shit, playing music, swimming, like just being silly. Like, I just want to have fun. People are very serious now, man. Like, and I understand there's a lot of issues in the world. There's a lot of world issues that, you know, massively publicised in the media now and on the news. I understand that, and I understand there's a pandemic and whatever. But fuck, man, like, we're here for a very short amount of time, and like, you ain't no getting it back. Like, no, once it's gone, it's gone. Like, gosh, and it's hard for me, and I don't think that I've got it 100% right and everyone's got it wrong. I don't think that at all. But
no.
I just think there's so much. And mate, you're like, you've done really well. Like, you're self-employed and you're making life work for you from doing that. Like,
thanks, man.
There's so much more to life, man, than working 9 till 5 for some twat that doesn't care about you. Like, waiting for 4 weeks of holiday every year. And there's nothing wrong with it, man. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, I understand that people have a life to live like that. People want to do it, but man, for me, like, I've done that. Like, I've worked in suits and banks. I've worked in gyms and PT people. But like, there's so much more, man. Like, it's not it. Like, it's not how we should be living at all. It's not. Like, there's not. It isn't. Like,
I totally agree.
And that's the door as well. That is the door you open. As soon as you open the self-employed door, man, there ain't no working for anyone else again. No one's telling me what I'm doing with my time. Like, I'm dying one day, and I'm leaving this earth thinking I've done enough stuff. Like, I'm not having no one tell me. Me and my brother were laughing about it last night. Like, imagine being like, hey, can I have this time off for this wedding? No, you can't. All right then. I won't go. Like, what? Yeah. What the fuck?
Somebody
like,
else
I'm having someone dictate my life. Like,
yeah.
It's crazy.
I totally agree, man. I think it's one of those things. It's like opening that door, as you said, to like the self-employment or freelance or just being your own person. Fuck.
There is privilege there as well. I understand. I do feel very like, okay, cool. But like, I did hone it, man. Like, I think everyone can do it. It wasn't just like, oh, you're blessed with a good voice and stuff. I was like, no, I did fucking. Like, I learned guitar. Like, I learned to songwrite. Like, I learned to sing.
It wasn't
really.
Given to you.
I know.
You worked hard for it.
And I think that everyone can do this. Like, I think everyone can actually like find something in their life which they can be self-employed by. Like, if they really think about it and spend years honing it, this craft, they can be self-employed and self-sufficient doing it. Like, it's not like people, we're in this culture as well, and I do it myself, man. I wait for things. You'd almost wait for things to be gifted to you. Like, you just think it's gonna happen. And that's what we were talking about earlier, to go through full circle on it with music. I was just waiting. I was just like, oh, if the songs are good enough, they're gonna be good enough. It's like, no, you have to do something. Like, it's not just gonna present itself on a platter. Like, oh,
here you go, Taylor.
Have this record deal. Like, it doesn't work like that. You have to like really like
go out and get after it. Yeah, 100%. I think that's a nice, like, poetic way to end this, man. That's a nice way. Man. So to everyone that's like watching or listening to this podcast, where can they find you? I'm guessing you're on social media and all those things.
Cool. So Instagram's a good one, and Facebook. It's just Taylor Topham Music. But yeah, keep up to date with that because music's coming soon. I hate doing these plugs. It's always so cringe. But also, Spotify is a big one. Just to get that out because I'm trying to really pump the Spotify at the moment. But yeah, stick around for the on Instagram and stuff because we're running a little competition now as well for tickets to some gigs and some free merch and stuff. So
awesome, man. That's so good.
So good to speak to you, Jake, man.
I appreciate that, bro. And honestly, it's so good to have you on the podcast. And to everyone who's watching or listening, make sure you check out Taylor's new song Wild Love, which is out when?
Next Friday. 26th.
Next Friday. So make sure you check it out. Go over to Spotify. All the links are down in the description below. Don't worry, I've got you, bro. I'll plug you.
Cheers, man.
And as I say at the end of every podcast, guys, it's a crazy world out there. Stay safe, stay humble, keep being enlightened, and love. Just love. Peace, guys.
Yo.